Hi, everyone. So today I thought we would talk about this Loudoun County again. It's so weird that everything is in so much of this crap is happening in Virginia schools, especially. But I suppose if you go off the rails, if you're that far gone, everything's going to be that far gone. I'm supposed to be joined by Sheri Few. I'm still waiting for her to join me, but that's okay. We can get started. So this is based on a story of a young transgender girl, thinks she's a boy. She went into the boys' locker room and she videotaped them. Now, in this school, it is not condoned behavior to videotape children inside a locker room. They showed some of the videotape and they blurred out faces and they blurred out other things. And she wasn't really trying to show body parts, but she was recording their commentary, and the boys were uncomfortable. So and they were uncomfortable with having a girl in their locker room, and they were saying so. So what, the idea, first of all, it's not appropriate for her to videotape them. And secondly, they were uncomfortable because they are now sharing their guy space with a girl who claims to be a guy. And they're shoving this down. The authorities are shoving this down these kids' throats. So what do you think happened to the girl who illegally videotaped the boys? And I will tell you nothing. But to the boys who merely commented how sort of uncomfortable it was to have a girl in their locker room, they got suspended. And so I thought, well, we really should talk about this, because I'm waiting for my guest, but and she's texted me that she's coming, but she's not on. So as soon as there she is. Fantastic. We'll just Sheri, it's great to see you. My guest is Sheri Few, and she is the founder and president of USPIE, which is United States Parents Involved in Education. I'm just trying to change the layout because I like the other layout better. So welcome. Can we hear you?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
There we go. Perfect.
Okay,
So I've
great.
set this up. It's Loudoun County again. It's a young girl who believes she's a boy. She went into the locker room and she videotaped the boys, and they were not saying complimentary things about having a girl in their locker room. But honestly, I watched the video and they were basically sort of joking about how it wasn't really appropriate for a girl to be in the boys' locker room, basically. They were denying her trans ability, I think. Right? They sort of saying, well, this is just, it's weird. It's weird to have a girl around while we're changing clothes. It's weird. And for this, they were suspended.
Yes, suspended for 10 days. They have to do a correction plan. They're forced to do this correction plan with the administration. And they're also, they've issued a no contact order for them. So that means they can't sign up for any of the same classes that this girl is attending. So it's really
a correction plan.
That's a very good question. But I imagine it'll be something that will be aligned with their agenda, to try to have these boys feel guilty for what they did, and probably apologize, and, who knows what else.
Well, okay. So I'll be a little bit more pointed than you're being for whatever reason. It's re-education. Right?
Yes.
It's re-education. They've figured out a different term so that we couldn't see what they were doing, but we're too smart for that. We know exactly what they're doing, and it's re-education. And so they, by the way, they have full control over these boys. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the responses, because they're high school students. They're facing suspension. Okay. They are found guilty of sexual harassment So ostensibly they knew that she was in the room. So they were kind of talking about her in front of her back, I guess, right?
Right.
They were guilty of sex-based discrimination. The parents are appealing the decision. They're arguing that their sons were unfairly punished for just questioning. And I watched the video. It seemed like that's really all they were doing, was kind of making a little bit of a fun about it and questioning why the transgender student was put into their locker room. The schools are not commenting, but if they get expelled from high school for this, or they can't take their AP history class because she's in their AP history class. He's in their AP history class. That derails a high school career. I didn't graduate high school because I didn't have my final history class. So they withheld my diploma and wouldn't graduate me, even though I was gone my senior year. So I and by the way, it didn't really hurt at all because I still went to college. But I know that for these kids, it's like the be all and end all. They need to graduate. They're built up to know that oh my gosh, they got to graduate. And so they're probably going through a little bit of torture right now, right?
Well, yes. I mean, in that aspect, of course, it affects their ability to take the classes they need to be successful. But I think even bigger is this idea of being pegged with this charge of sexual harassment. I think it's very uncalled for, of course, but not only that, it will damage their reputations for the rest of their lives.
Right. It'll go on their records.
It will go on their record, and it is horrific because in this case, let's say the roles were reversed and we had a girls' locker room, which is what we typically hear about. In fact, we know the Loudoun County case Loudoun County is famous for the case in 2021 when a transgender male claiming to be a female was in the female's space, and there was an alleged assault, a sexual assault. And so, typically that's the kind of case we hear about. But in this situation, I think that there are even safety concerns for young men. I mean, for boys in this situation, to have a girl, and I understand she was videotaping. I mean, that's the only way the school district had evidence that they said anything at all, is she was videotaping the boys in this private space.
It's illegal to videotape, but there are no repercussions for her because she's trans. So they can't possibly, I guess they just feel like, well, if you're trans, you can do anything that you want to do because there won't be any repercussions for you. And that's a heck of a message to send to kids. I mean, honestly, that is the message that our culture sends, is if you self-determine that you are trans, you just get like a cakewalk for the rest of your life. That's the message that we're sending these kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's further fortifying this mental illness. And that's exactly what they're doing in the government schools today. Is I think they're creating this mental illness by putting it in children's minds to begin with. We know at very young ages, even in kindergarten, there are curricula that is being targeted to young boys and girls, having them question whether they're the sex they were born in. And so they're creating this mental health issue, and they're exacerbating it by, adding on with these type things. So
let me ask you this. Okay, forgive me, I'm going to get real snarky. Is it possible to sexually harass someone of your same gender?
I wouldn't think so.
Then how can they find these boys guilty of sexual harassment if the girl claims to be male and believes that she is male, and they believe that she is male? So now you can have sexual, and maybe, I mean, look, they're defining their terms all day long and redefining them, right? So I guess now, Sheri, sexual harassment is words that hurt somebody's feeling.
Well, so they're kind of playing along with what the Biden administration did. If you remember, when they interpreted Title IX, they wrote regulations. They tried to rewrite the law through regulation and saying that sex, the definition of sex also included LGBTQ. So that's what the Biden administration attempted to do. So that's how they could justify something like this. So then it
What do
would
you,
be
I'm
sexual.
sorry, you lost me. What do you mean? The definition of sex?
So Title IX is written,
Okay. Sorry, you're right. You
right,
were relating it to Title IX. So for the purposes
exactly.
of Title IX, protections apply not just to women, but to all genders or all
Sex.
92 genders?
Well, yes, that's what the Biden administration tried to do. Yes, to
Sorry.
redefine sex instead of it, what it's always meant, male and female. Yes, now it can be furries or whatever, a person is identifying as. And so that's what gave them, they think, the precedent, to charge these boys with sexual harassment because that is how they're defining sex.
But that doesn't have anything to do with Title IX. Oh, I guess you're saying that yeah, no, I'm sorry. Make it make sense. It didn't, come on.
Okay, so Title IX was written as and it is a policy that will not allow discrimination based on sex. Okay, so what the Biden administration did was try to redefine sex to include all of these other things, so that harassment could be pinned, like what has happened on these boys.
Yeah. Wow.
And
I
thank
mean,
God there was a federal court that struck that down and said they absolutely could not rewrite the law. That that's what they're attempting to do. That's the role of Congress. And then of course Trump came into office and turned all of that on its head. And so now he's even threatened this very same school district. They gave them a deadline, which they did with several school districts around the country and colleges and universities. They said, according to Title IX, you're violating the federal law with your policies that allow males and female spaces and vice versa. So that's what they're using, of course, and
well, they
and
had
that's what
to
we're
because
doing.
otherwise Title IX says you may not put these people in other spaces.
Correct. And so that's what this Department of Education and Trump are all saying, that they're violating the federal law. They threatened to withhold money from them. They had a deadline of August 15th, which came and went, and they wrote a letter saying, well, we're going to stick to our guns. We're doubling down. We're going to keep this policy. Come on with your threats. We'll take it on. So that's just happened recently. And I can't wait to see the Trump administration's reaction to that, because I know they're going to come in like they've done in other instances, and they're going to withhold their federal funding. And that's unfortunately the only way to get their attention. Although as
Do
an
you think it'll work?
organization, we've seen it work. We saw it work in Pennsylvania. So it has worked. And it's a threat. It's a threat that hasn't really ever been acted on. It's been a threat that the
Right.
Democrats have used in the past, but nobody's
Right.
actually done it. So Trump is the first one with the courage to carry through with the threats, I
Yeah.
believe.
So one of the mothers moved. She just picked up and moved states.
I don't blame her. I think that's why so many people are moving these days. I live in the South. I know you do now too. You're probably one of them that fled, the outrageous leftist policies. But in my red state, I mean, we have housing developments and growing up everywhere, all around us, and people are moving here from other states. I meet people all the time from other states who are conservatives, and even though they were raised and their family was from these states that they love, they
Yeah.
just can't take it any longer. They're leaving, and I don't blame them.
Yeah. I mean, California's going way off the deep end with this new initiative to now they've put it in a holding pattern, but AB 495, HB 495 that no, AB, sorry, it is it is AB 495, that says that any adult can take guardianship over a child just by saying they have it. And guardianship applies to medical decisions, school decisions. I mean, you name it. Once you're the
Yeah.
guardian, you control that child. How is that not child trafficking? Like,
Yes. It's very frightening to see that policy being considered. I don't know if it'll actually pass, but I know that there's going to be plenty of pressure put on the people to, against it. And I think even in California, there are people that I know people in California that aren't so wacky liberal like these policies, and they do all they can to fight them. And I think some of this stuff, really, Sam, has become less and less partisan. These are common sense issues that we're discussing today. And people from the left and the right believe that it is wrong to say that a boy is a girl and a girl is a boy when they're not. I mean, it's common sense. Athletes competing in the opposite sex sports, we're seeing a bipartisan opposition to that in states like Washington and in California. So, I think more and more these issues are becoming nonpartisan, and that's something to celebrate.
I agree. I wonder if it's going to be enough because meanwhile, children are being harmed. These young men who did really nothing wrong. I mean, it's locker room talk. By the way, that actually is protected speech. And they should have thrown out the video because it's protected, because you're not allowed to record. So thank you for that recording. I must disregard it because it's illegally obtained. And instead, the school decided to act punitively against those children, mind you. How dare they? And the idea that, I mean, one woman moved. I don't blame her. But where are the other parents who are deciding to stay? I would ouster everybody on the school board. I would call a referendum. I would call for basically a do-over. Let's get rid of everybody. This is absurd that this has gotten this far. How dare you label these boys with that pejorative that you and I both know is kind of like, okay, really? But seriously, I watched this happen. I went to Duke University and we had the lacrosse players who, was it Tawana Bradley, something like that. There was a young woman who claimed that she was gang raped. And there was very sketchy evidence, but the prosecutor decided that this was going to be his money-making moment, his fame and glory. And so he prosecuted them to the fullest extent. They lost everything. And then we come to learn that it was all entirely fabricated. And they were never vindicated. I mean, eventually they were vindicated. The good news there, as what I learned over time, is they used that to their advantage because then they countersued. And so, but that doesn't take away from, one, being falsely accused is bad enough, right? That is terrible punishment because in the court of public opinion, they were all guilty. I mean, it was just, how dare they? This poor young minority, and she's pretty, and her sad story, and these rich white kids from, New York or New Jersey, and they're going to an elite school, and they're obviously the bad guys, and these kids' lives were ruined. But the amount of like post-traumatic stress from that, right now, I'm representing Parents Demanding Justice Alliance. And these parents went to bat for their kids and they're suffering. And I'm seeing it up close and personal. And it's like they've got their own personal COVID going on, And these young men, they're not even college aged. And their lives, for a young person, your life is only until, the end of the year, until next year, until a few months from now. Like they're very short-sighted because youth is very compressed. And so their lives are ruined. That's all they can see right now. I mean, if I had a moment to talk to them, I would say, don't worry, this is going to make you stronger and you will come out ahead. We're going to turn this for the good because
Right.
this is absurd, right? But they can't see that. And the parents, I can't even imagine what the parents are going through. And it should never have been allowed. It should not have been, but she must have posted it on social media first, right? And so then it's out there. And they
Right.
feel like they feel like somehow they are culpable if they don't react or something. But it's madness. The whole thing's madness, right?
It is. It's totally shocking. And so to your point about the parents, they should be demanding a do-over and replace their school board and all of that. And it reminds me again of the case that hasn't even been settled yet from 2021, where that father, and I wonder too if he's not one of the people in your dossier, the father who was arrested because he spoke out at the school board meeting. He was outraged that the school district would cover up the fact that his daughter was raped in the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
He's a part of your dossier?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
So why hasn't there been, and I know there was quite a bit of political upheaval around that, and that's kind of what started the whole weaponization against parents, using the federal government against parents. Was that whole situation. They were trying to affect the political outcome of the governor's race there. And so in the article that we read about this incident, the attorney general is quoted saying, it's unconstitutional. Their rights have been violated. And then he goes on to say, and our office is monitoring this. Hello, monitoring? What good is that? If it's outrageous and unconstitutional, he ought to step in and do something to help these boys.
It's odd to me that the left is always ready to act and the right is always ready to monitor. No, but come on, it certainly seems that way. Look, for parents demanding justice, I've met on Capitol Hill. I've met with the DOJ. I've met with the Office of Domestic Policy, and I've had conversations with the Department of Education, and nobody's doing anything. They're all like monitoring, and it's very, very frustrating. It's very frustrating when you get off the call, you feel like, okay, they heard me this time. I feel like we're gonna make some effort here. We're gonna make some change, like things are gonna happen. And you send over all of the information that they've asked for on the call. And then you follow up a few weeks later and they say, oh, yes, this is awesome. Hey, let's do a follow-up call. And you're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get a follow-up call. This is great. And in the follow-up call, they say, we did not look at what you sent over. Could you send it again? And it's 6 weeks have gone by.
Unbelievable.
Very, very frustrating. So I think the parents of Loudoun County should get together and demand a retraction, demand a repercussion upon the girl who filmed, demand further retribution because she published it against the law, ostensibly against the law, right? It's not the law, but it's the school law. And there should be a response to that. I don't care what gender she thinks she is. She videotaped in a locker room. That's not allowed. And she published it. Or I guess I'm assuming that she published it, but I'm thinking that that's why this became such a case but maybe not. Maybe she just brought them the videotape and they published it.
Right. I'm not sure about that either, but obviously it was published, and that's the whole crux of this case that they have against these boys.
And the thing is
that video.
I could understand if there was like jeering, if they like went up to her and somehow manhandled her or something, or did something like they stole her gym shorts and wouldn't give them back, or, some sort of bullying. But it was literally, they were having ostensibly a private conversation. Yes, it was in the locker room and it was out loud, so it wasn't really private. I'm sorry. It just doesn't rise to the level. it just does, especially not to label them with that pejorative. I just find it so egregious.
Well, I
I'm
agree.
using this word so often now, egregious. I mean, it's a really good word, but like it's become a staple in my vocabulary, and
Mhm.
I don't like it. Like, I wish things weren't so egregious all the time.
They weren't so egregiously egregious.
Right. It's
Oh, I know.
outrageous how egregious it is.
And when I'm writing, I have to try to find different words so I don't use the same word over and over again. But I mean, how many ways can you say it? But it's absolutely what we're faced with in this culture. When it comes to government schools, it is egregious. Every single bit of it, from kindergarten or pre-kindergarten through college.
What can they
And
do? What can the parents do?
Well, our organization, that's United States Parents Involved in Education, um, we encourage parents not to enroll their children in government schools. I mean, they have to protect their children. And what's happening in government schools is far beyond fixing. It's so toxic within the system that their children are being harmed. And parents that love their children have to get them out of harm's way. That's their first line of defense. And so many parents say, we can't afford to do it. That's the main thing, is we can't afford to do it. We need two incomes. I can't homeschool, can't afford private school. But I beg to differ, especially for Christian families. It would be, I think God would honor their decision to protect their children. That is their job. And in fact, education is their job, and they're responsible for the education their children receive. And if they make a decision, a God honoring decision, God is going to provide for their needs.
I
So
love that.
parents, they need to quit fearing the almighty dollar and the power it has over their
Mm,
families, and
mm.
do what's in the best interest of their children. They
You
have to
know,
do that first.
it's
And so, go
it's a
ahead.
really good point you're making, and I'd also like to point out, just as an ancillary, they don't know how much it costs. They don't
Right.
know how much time they need to be able to do it. They don't know that that they absolutely can work a full-time job and home educate, especially older children. They don't know what they're actually denying their ability to do. And so I would just encourage them, you just have to get specific. And if you're not willing to put the safety of your child in front of everything else for a moment, just to do the research to say, okay, I think I can't do this, but let me just double check. What would it take? Because it really wouldn't take that much. Then there's no point. Like, if you're not willing to just put in the minimum amount of effort that it requires. I mean, I know programs that are fully automated online that cost very little money. And so not nearly as much as a scholarship to home educate your child runs in the state of Florida, less than half the cost of the scholarship funds. So if you were in Florida and you thought, well, I can't put my kid in public school, but I can't afford to homeschool, you've got the scholarship, which I don't like, but it's there. And this program is full-time classical Christian education online for less than half what the scholarship is. And but parents don't know. They just make the decision. They go, oh, I just can't do it. I don't even know what it is, and I can't do it.
Right. And I think our society has become just comfortable in this entitlement, because that's really what it is. It's a
Mhm.
government entitlement that we've offered to families to babysit their children while they go to work. And the schools want children younger and younger. They want them for longer. They have after school programs. So essentially, it is a daycare for children. Especially with the rise of technology, I mean, teachers are nearly obsolete anymore because most education is online and, tech based. And so we really don't even need teachers except to be babysitters and facilitators while
I'm
we
gonna
indoctrinate them online with all this garbage.
Yeah, I'm going to interject. Education is not online. Schooling is online. There's a big difference. Education happens between the child and the parent. And so we
Right.
are outsourcing education and thinking that it's going to be accomplished and it won't be, because it really is between the child and the parent, not between the child and the teacher. So that's schooling, that's different. All right, we're going to leave it there. It's been a good conversation, Sheri. It's great to see you again.
Thank
I
you.
would encourage parents, especially the parents in Loudoun County, I would encourage you to respond to this and coalesce behind these young men who have been treated so unfairly, and show them some support, and see if you can reach out to the school authorities and voice your opinion, because if you don't, your child is next. It's just the way it's going to go. So we have to start speaking out, and damn the torpedoes, as they say. Full steam ahead. Sheri Few from USPIE, thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you next time. Remember, speak truth and speak it boldly. This is Sam Sorbo.